Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doc's Huddle, your gateway to an in-depth connection between sports medicine and the latest in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. What's going on, Dr. Mikey MJB? How are you today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. It's Wednesday, getting through the week. Excited for the show today. We have a couple of things to discuss, so looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I am too. Our shows have been getting more and more exciting, in my opinion. I mean, they were exciting before, but now it's just we're getting close to the season. Preseason is already a full week in, and not that we wish injuries upon anyone, but guess what? We've already had some significant ones. One that we're going to be talking about today. So today's show is going to consist of we have two shows today. The first show we're going to be having is going to consist of JJ McCarthy and his recent injury. We're going to get into the specifics of that. And then we're going to talk about the fantasy football kickers and their rankings. And I know that maybe some people don't find that as interesting as some of the other positions, but let me tell you, we both know from experience, very important to have a good kicker, because Monday morning or Tuesday morning, after the Monday night game or that Sunday night game, you wake up the next day and that kicker either hit a long field goal or missed, and that could be the difference between winning or losing.
Man, dude, there's times I went to sleep on a Monday night and thinking that, I'm up by 8. There's no way I can lose this game. Kicker crushes it, has like 15 points. I'm like, what the hell? So, to your point, kickers are extremely important and valuable when it comes to fantasy football and get overlooked a lot of times. I get it. It's not a flashy pick, not a fun pick, but it's a pick
necessary one.
To happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be a loser to allow the top 10 kickers to get picked, and you're sitting there and you're scrambling for a kicker because there is a drop off.
If you're playing in a 12-man league and you're letting yourself take the 11th or 12th best kicker, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of you who think that we're crazy, you're looking at the two people who have had a lot of success in their fantasy football leagues in the past. Not to, gloat, but it's true, right?
On this, but go ahead, Mike. I'll let you.
Right. Yeah. No. And just to give some of the listeners a little bit more of a visual of what you're kind of mentioning. This is a graphic that is not ours. It's from the Hospital for Special Surgery, one of the most reputable places that performs these types of surgeries. So you can see those C-shaped type of structures. So basically what I see with the two differences in these surgeries, the meniscectomy is the one where you go into your surgeon and they're like, oh yeah, we'll get you in and out pretty quick. And that's that. They go in, they clean it out, they debride it, meaning they cut away some of the frayed tissue. You can kind of see in this photo how there's some areas of the tear. So if there's anything flapping, they can go in there, cut it out, sew you back up. They cleaned everything up, made it all nice and neat. And then you go to rehab. We rehab you for a couple weeks, depending on severity. I tell everyone it depends on what your pre-training status was. So people think that this is always an easy injury. And, if you're, fat and out of shape, it's going to take a lot longer. But these professional athletes, they get these things done. And then in just a couple of weeks, you can see them already starting to run again. And then they're back on the field. I'd say anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks, you can get a guy back on the field, with the meniscectomy. Now, with the meniscus repair, okay, now the repair is, I think it's a more extensive rehab than what you're going to see with an ACL repair, because what happens is they suture up the torn area of your meniscus, and then what happens is every single time we apply pressure down where the femur bone, the top bone, which is if you look in the picture there, it's the above one. It presses down on your meniscus, causing that meniscus to splay out, and that will stretch those sutures. As a result, you can re-tear the meniscus if you do this too soon after surgery, which makes the patient coming out of surgery non-weight bearing. So you're looking at a meniscectomy where they just cut you up, sew you back up. You're walking out of there same day, and you're going right to rehab, and we're getting you squatting, and we're doing all these things, managing swelling, of course, but we're getting you moving quickly. Versus this repair, we're not even allowed to put weight on it for an upwards of up to 6 weeks. The least I've had was 2 weeks, and that's normally in the older adult. But in these higher level athletes where they really want to preserve as much of this as they can, it's 4 to 6 weeks. They're not weight bearing. So now it's a much longer road to recovery. Fluctuations in swelling are a lot greater. So overall, it's a much more extensive rehab where you're looking at from 4 to 6 weeks to the bare minimum is 6 months, with the repair. But more and more research is coming out now that's saying that that's not even adequate enough. You really need 9 months to 12. And that's where you see these guys, they'll be on the field at 9 months, but they're not cleared for contact just yet. And then that's where they creep into the 10, 11, 12 months. So good news for Vikings fans. If this was going to happen, it couldn't have happened at a better time, because now he'll be ready for next year's training camp, no doubt.
Yeah.
But so anything you wanted to add to that?
No, that was spot on. And I think it's important for people to realize that JJ McCarthy hasn't played it down in the league, right? So based on the anatomy and phys that we just kind of ran through, it's highly important to take that conservative approach with your athlete, right? There's no reason to put him in danger. There's no reason risking going in and doing a meniscectomy when you can actually do a meniscus repair and look at it from a long-term perspective. You want him to fully recover. And all right, yeah, he misses his rookie year, but it's like him starting all over again, right? So I'd rather that than to do a meniscectomy, rush him out there, potentially have him potentially not have it cleaned or it needed to be repaired, and we didn't do that the first time. Now he potentially injures himself, injures a different body part, because you know how that goes. When you have an injury at one side, you could potentially cause something else to happen based on compensatory mechanisms. So yeah, I think it's the right approach. I think that it's spot on. It's unfortunate if you're a Vikings fan. I mean, but how high were your hopes anyways? So like, that's, yeah, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just calling it what it is. So, but this does have a huge impact on fantasy football.
Yes,
which we'll dive into in our next segment.
In episode 2 of today. 1000%. And yeah, so the other thing I'm going to mention with this, if there's any silver lining to this, we talk about all the time how some of the old school way of thinking was you draft the quarterback and you let them sit like Mahomes did behind Alex Smith. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is by any means an Alex Smith, but he's going to have the ability to sit there, absorb, learn the ins and the outs of the offense. He's going to be back on the sidelines, mid-season. He'll be there taking mental reps, right? He may not be on the sideline for the first game of the season, but he'll definitely be with the team taking these mental reps, learning more, and going from there. So, we'll see. I mean, when we were talking to, I had spoken briefly earlier to Dr. Dirty Randy, who has not been on this show or a show yet, for that matter. But he was saying, and I do happen to agree with him, that this is their franchise quarterback. This is supposed to be the future of their franchise. You invest in the repair so that way this doesn't become an ongoing issue. You start taking away tissue, then there's not anything replacing that. You said this area does not have good blood supply. Nothing's going to grow back. So now the likelihood of him wearing away at that joint is greater. So does that impair his longevity of his NFL career? We don't know, because we don't know the severity of the tear. If it was minor, probably not. But if it was pretty severe and they just go clip it out, yeah, it absolutely could.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's something to say about that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Well, so that's it on JJ McCarthy. There's not much else to say about that. We wish him best of luck. All right. And with that being said, we're not going to talk about how his injury impacts fantasy just yet, but we are going to go to the fantasy football kickers. So I'm going to let you take it away, Dr. MJB.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Not a lot to go into here. I mean, we'll just get to it. I won't waste too much time. So here I have my fantasy football kicker rankings for 2024. Okay. For me, I think Justin Tucker is cream of the crop. Has a phenomenal leg. He plays for the Ravens. Ravens are going to put up points. They play great defense, which Something people don't take into consideration too. You want to look at teams who have great defense, right? Because if you can set yourself up in terms of great field position and your offense is stagnant, at least you come away with the field goal and your kicker gets you points there. And I feel like
Right.
Baltimore has that advantage. I have Harrison Buckhurst at number 2. Kansas City puts up points and an abundance amount of points. So
Yeah.
I have him.
Yeah.
I have him too. I have Dallas kicker Brandon Aubrey number 3, Jake Elliott number 4, just because I think the Eagles won't take a step back really, and they'll continue to push the ball forward, even though I think their defense is a little shaky. But points would not be their issue. I actually have Kaimi Fairbairn as the 5th because listen, Houston put up points.
Solid.
Yeah, Houston put up points last year, and I think that's not going to change. In fact, I predict that they'll even be a more dynamic offense with the weapons that they have. So I think that's a good pick at 5. I have Jake Moody for San Fran at 6. They're always putting up points as well. They're putting their kicker in position to get points. Greg Zuerlein, I think with A-Rod being back, is going to be very beneficial to them. I actually think his value was more prominent last year because they didn't have such a great QB, so they had to rely on field goals. But either way, I think he'll earn points from PATs and other things. So I have him 7. I have Evan McPherson for Cincy as 8. I think with Burrow coming back, that's going to only elevate his stock. It was interesting, though, because even though I have him 8 on my list, he potentially could be higher. I'm just having him there for the simple fact that it's kind of wait and see, seeing how that offense is going to operate with, like I said, Burrow coming back, with Higgins winning a contract and things like that. You just don't know. And it may not seem like it'll factor too much into the kicker, but it actually will if there's, drama on that offense.
Listen, a poor offense, you need something, right? Because if that you need to at least get in the field goal range. You know what I'm saying? Like, take the Giants last year, for example. Not last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, right? Graham Gano. Last year he was hurt, but he's a fantastic kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Giants just haven't had an offense. So, it doesn't matter how good the leg is and how accurate the leg is if you're not in position to put the ball between the uprights. So,
yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Graham Gano. I have him as an honorable mention.
Yes.
Doesn't appear on here. Yeah, but he's definitely an honorable mention of mine. Former Panther too. I view Evan McPherson the same way I do Jason Sanders. I think both those offenses have potential to be dynamic, so their kickers would benefit from it. I have Cameron Dicker at 10. I have my kickers who has a favorite name, even though I'm not a Falcons fan, Young Ho Koo. I have him at 11. Then I have Dustin Hopkins from Cleveland to round out my top 12 kickers for this upcoming season.
Yeah. So the only one that I found interesting was Greg Zuerlein, only because I think he's peaked.
Really?
Yeah, dude. He couldn't make it on the Cowboys. He was bouncing around. He ended up on the Jets. He's good enough to stay in the league, but he had some missed field goals, bro. He's still got probably the strongest leg in the league. Him and is it Bucker? I had on the strongest legs. I know he has one of the strongest, if not the strongest leg in the league. But dude, he's been so up and down. I was a huge fan of his. He was winning me many previous games in fantasy. He didn't even make my top 12 because of it. I'll throw mine up there, but yeah. So Justin Tucker's the GOAT. I think that the Dallas Cowboys. So there's nothing to even say about him. You take him, you don't even have to worry. You just don't even worry about kicker. Like you're fine every week. You're good. He'll give you something. Brandon Aubrey, he is a stud, dude. He was a rookie last year. Yeah. I think he is the second best kicker in the league to Justin Tucker. I think that he's just soaring upwards. I'm very excited to see what he has to do. I hope that all the Dallas Cowboys manage to do are kick field goals because I am a Giants fan. So, but yeah, so he's number 2. I think that he's going to put up a lot of points for you. Harrison Bucker, what can you say? He's on the Chiefs. He's consistent. He's good. He's good. Fairbairn. I think that the Texans are going to be putting up a lot of points this year, and I think that he's a good kicker. I think that it's a safe pick. And I kind of went with that with when making my top 12. I was looking at two variables. Are they accurate? And are they on teams that are going to be putting up a lot of points? And so those are the things that those are some of the things that I'm thinking of. Oh, and by the way, CJ, our sports enthusiast, who will be joining us for the second show this evening, he's sitting by watching along, and he wanted to let everyone know that he thinks for sure Harrison Butker would go number 2 here instead of Brandon Aubrey. Yeah, Chris, in the past, I think Brandon Aubrey is going he's soaring past Butker this year. And yes, Younghoe Koo is a baller, end quote. I do agree. But I don't have him until a little bit later. I think Jason Sanders is going to have so many opportunities for whether it's extra points or field goals that I moved him all the way up to number 5. It's almost because he's just that should be the highest powered offense. It was for the majority of the year last year. It should be again this year, period. Jake Moody, similar concept. The 49ers are going to be putting up points, so I think that he's going to be able to put up a lot. And the one that I think that is going to be interesting, Tyler Bass is a good kicker. He dropped dramatically for me. Normally, I feel like Tyler Bass in fantasy is a top 5 kicker. But my biggest concern is it's what do we expect of this offense in Buffalo? I don't know. They lost valuable pieces on the offensive line. They lost valuable pieces at the wide receiver core. I don't know. Evan McPherson, I agree with you. I think he's great. He dropped in my book only because I've had him for the last 3 seasons. And every year, just the performance declines. And last year, yes, you could say, well, Burrow was not. You're right. Dude, their backup quarterback was very good. Give them an opportunity to make the playoffs. And guess what? They may not have finished and scored many touchdowns, but that left him for more opportunities. And he missed. He had the most misses of his career last year. I'm not saying he's going to do it again, but until he shows me otherwise, he is not going to be one of my top picks at the kicker position like he was in previous years. That one hurt me.
Watch this be the year where you don't pick him and he balls.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So everyone who's listening, you're going to take him and you're going to be like, that guy knew nothing. And, well, I left the jinx on him. Daniel Carlson, I think he's another young kicker in this league. I think he's going into his 3rd year now. Very, very good. Very productive. He has a leg. This guy can kick the ball from afar. He's just on a Raiders team that we don't know what to expect from that offense. So, assuming that they can at least get into field goal position, I'm hoping that he gets some opportunities. So I think if you want a very good kicker at that 12 spot, like Daniel Carlson is one that you can draft and say, okay, I feel good that he's a valuable kicker. The only thing that might hurt you is what that Raiders offense does for you. And I believe you had Cameron Dicker up there pretty high as well, right?
Yeah. I did.
Yeah. So Cameron Dicker, listen, the Rams, I think everyone's been hearing it from me. I think that the Rams are making a run at the division. Obviously, you have the 49ers who it's their year and the Ravens' year to peak. But I think that the Rams are going to be up there as the high wild card in the NFC, putting up a lot of points, high-powered offense. And so Cameron Dicker is going to get a lot of opportunities. So he's definitely on my radar if I wind up finding myself on the back end of the drafting kickers.
I feel like I might just knowing that this is your ranking, I'll probably just take one of your guys out of spite. So careful where you're. We'll see when draft.
I'm sharing for the viewers, not for you, friend.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to win, so whatever it takes.
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't for everyone else that I'm trying to provide good content to, I would have placed a couple of Joe Schmoes up in there and 5 and 6 trying to plant bad seeds for you and CJ. But and Chris also agrees with us that the pick in Daniel Carlson is good. He's a great kicker, but again, the Raiders have so many question marks. You just don't know. So listen, I'm not telling people to draft 2 kickers, but it's someone that you might want to take a flyer on at the kicker position because he could ball for you. And if the Raiders have a productive offense, he will give you points.
Yeah, and you have him number 12, so like anything past 10, you're kind of just taking a flyer on and hoping that things kind of pan out. Because I in the past,
past 8.
Yeah, honestly, really past 8,
Past 8.
But shoot, even yeah, from you can say from 8 beyond or even 10 beyond that, you're just hoping that that kicker that you ended up picking either hits, and if not, you'd be switching out early on in the season to get the one that is starting to ball out. So yeah, after those 8 kickers, if you don't have one, I would say keep an eye on the waiver wire and see what ends up popping up, because every year there's always a guy or two at every position that you're just shocked at his value and what he has to bring to the table. So that, I think that's the beauty of fantasy football. Like, you can have a poor draft but still come out on top based on how you're hitting the waiver wire each week.
Yeah, anyone who wants to win in fantasy, you need to be active on the waiver wire. Between injuries, you need to have your eyes on different rookies that you may not have the ability to draft them early on during the draft, and it may not be smart. If you can't have them sit on your bench for a long period of time, you might not be able to draft them, but you know that they're not going to blossom until midseason, and we see that all the time with different wideouts, running backs, where you got to have your eye like. Everyone thought I was crazy when I made my last pick of Isaiah Pacheco, his rookie year. You can, boom, so like, and I let him sit and ride that bench. And then sure enough, I had other issues and I had to drop someone. And, I think Christopher, CJ, wound up picking him up. I couldn't have been more pissed, but I had to let him go because he was sitting on the bench. And sure enough, I was like the next game, he blows up.
Yeah.
But that'd be my luck. Yeah. But anyway, so. That is it for our show today on JJ McCarthy and his injury update. Again, we wish him much luck on his rehab. We heard today that it was a success coming out of surgery. It's already been done, so the rehab process starts tomorrow. And that is it for our fantasy football kickers rankings. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back shortly to review our fantasy football rankings for the wide receiver position, one of our most exciting reviews yet. So everyone stay tuned. For Dr. MJB, I'm Dr. Mikey B. See you guys in a bit.